Welcome to a broadcast of the recent Lorain County Commissioners' General Meeting. Unless otherwise announced, meetings are held Wednesday morning at the Administration Building, 226 Middle Avenue, 4th floor, downtown Elyria. These are public meetings and you are invited to attend. Agendas are posted prior to the meeting at www.loraincounty.us. Click on Departments to see the Commissioners page, then click on View Agenda.
Travel.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Mr. Kalo.
Aye.
Ms. Kokoski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Bills.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Kalo.
Aye.
Ms. Kokoski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Number 9, authorize various personnel actions as indicated on summary sheet for employees within jurisdiction of Lorain County Board of Commissioners.
Mr. Cordez?
Thank you, Commissioner. I do have two issues for executive session this evening. One being the potential purchase of real estate. The second being a collective bargaining agreement for the Treasurer's Office with the United Steelworkers of America. I believe I sent the executive summary around. I would like to talk about both those issues with you. Those topics are allowable for under the Sunshine Law for executive session discussion, so I'd ask at the conclusion of our regular board meeting this evening that we go into executive session and talk about those two items. Thank you.
Okay. Number 10, authorize payment of $1,000 to Boyer and Cool Home for Funerals in Lorain for indigent veteran David N. Hupfer in accordance with Ohio Revised Code 5901.25.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Mr.
Yes,
K-
hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Normally you wouldn't think there would be a discussion about this, but I had noticed that this veteran lived in Erie County, and I had to check on that.
I have not completed the research on that.
Okay.
I don't want to put counsel on the spot because I don't think he would know, but maybe. The veteran died at Mercy Hospital,
Correct.
Mercy Regional Medical Center. However, the record of residency was in a separate county.
Erie.
Right. I was just my brief understanding of it would be that it would be Erie County's responsibility as a resident of Erie County. I don't believe it's where you become deceased, but where you reside.
Right.
But I have not been able to do the research to give you a 100% answer on that. You spoke to me yesterday. I
Right.
just haven't gotten to it yet.
Okay, and then there was another question too as to the amount of sales tax, what is to be paid and what isn't to be paid. They had a whole total in the 6.25. It was like ridiculously low. Yeah, so we need to check on that. So can we hold this until next week?
I'll withdraw my motion.
I withdraw
hold.
my second.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Solid Waste, number 11, approve a request from the Nord Center in Lorain for 25 refurbished computers from the Solid Waste Management District.
Mr. Bailey?
Good evening, Commissioners. Keith Bailey, Solid Waste Director. We have a request today for 25 refurbished computers to go to the Nord Center in Lorain. And we have investigated the group and found them to be qualifying under the rules of our plan. So,
I'm thinking maybe while you're up there, since we have such a big room full of people, do you want to tell them a little bit about our collection center and the type of items that we collect there?
I'm expanding it, am I not?
Yes,
Huh?
you are.
I've
Cardboard.
done it again. We've had a request recently for cardboard, and there has been some of the drop-offs shutting down throughout the county for cardboard, so we're going to fill that void. We're going to start accepting cardboard at the center publicly. The news release has been prepared and will be out there probably tomorrow. We're also looking at becoming the drop-off center for Republic. Republic has, for a long time, manned a drop-off center at the MRF. That's no longer available since the renovations have happened. And we are now working with Republic, and we'll be able to announce very soon that we'll be taking other recyclables at the center that were originally handled by Republic. So
Let them know what other things that we take there,
we
like
take computers, anything that's attached to the computer. We
e-scrap.
take TVs, e-waste, yes. TVs up to 27 inches. We take household hazardous waste items. We do not take motor oil because the private sector is in that business. That's our thrust. We recycle things that the private sector don't, so that's our job. Scrap tires, electronics is a huge portion of it, and now we're doing books, softbacks and hardbacks, and we've been the recipient of some very nice loads of books from Oberlin College and as well as from our local library system. Have I forgotten anything?
Batteries and ballast bulbs?
Yeah, we do the rechargeable batteries. Lead acid batteries, we still encourage you to take them to the private contractors who pay for them. We do bulbs and ballasts, and we have been doing those for a long, long time. So that's also for the public and the commercial sector. So we do bulbs and ballasts and electronics for the commercial people as well.
All you have to do is show proof of residency that you live in Lorain County, pull in, you don't even have to get out of your car, and drop off your recyclables, so.
There we go.
Do
We're
good
here
work
to
there,
serve.
thank you.
All right?
Yep.
I'll move to approve.
Second?
Okay, any discussion? Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Okay, under common pleas, number 12, approve the addendum with the State of Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Correction, modifying the fiscal year 2013 Community-Based Corrections Program 407 subsidy grant from $910,387 to $934,187, and there's no cash match required.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Under the sheriff, number 13, approve and enter into a contract with New Russia Township to provide police protection in the township commencing January 1 of 2013 through December 31 of 2015.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Cordez?
I see you have quite a crowd here tonight. I'll pass on any additional reports and comments so we can get moving.
Okay. Mr. Ennis?
Commissioners, if we're going to have an executive session, I have just one question to ask you regarding an imminent litigation matter.
Okay. Commissioners report, Ms. Kukowski?
I just want to let you know,
Excuse
Monday,
me.
I had a meeting, Dr. Church at Lorain County Community College hosted a meeting for the elected officials, both local and state, to discuss Vision 2.0, which deals with upgrading to fiber optics throughout Lorain County government. It was well attended, a lot of information. There is an assessment that needs to be done first before we can go forward with that. So I would hope that we would want to get involved with that. I don't know if anybody, it kind of goes together with what we had last week with, the company?
Well, you know what,
Tiquity?
you know what,
Yeah.
you know we have the black fiber in this
Correct.
building,
But
and,
we're not connected to the superhighway, right?
well, we will be. Because we had the distant learning lab here, under the grant that the college applied for, they also applied to have it out at our EMA. So we'll have two of our buildings with black fiber on the super highway for internet. So it's very encouraging. Once it's up and running, we'll let you know, but they've been working on the equipment installation.
Okay, good. Look forward to that. I'm going to pass on the rest of my report.
Yeah, busy week. I had my first opportunity to testify in the State House yesterday in regards to the budget. I testified in front of the House Finance and Budget Committee in regards to how the money will be split up if they move forward on bonding out the turnpike. I represented our 13-county coalition. We'll see how it goes. Just keep fighting for 90% of the money to stay up north here for us and not end up in 71. So it was an interesting time. End of my report. We got, like I said, big night. So.
Yeah, I was actually approached to go down and testify next week regarding the bonding of the turnpike, so I'm still waiting for information to come in. Last week, I actually went to a meeting at the new Mercy facility in Amherst. It's what they refer to as the Splash Zone 2. It's a community meeting regarding drug use. We had the coroner there, police officers, and multiple doctors. Great meeting, well attended. Talking about prescription drugs, also heroin. And the issues with heroin, going for basically $10 a hit, the tolerance people are building up to it, and how it's becoming a major issue, not just in Lorain County, but throughout the state of Ohio. And with having such a large group here, I want to let you know we have the Drug Task Force is putting on a levy this year. For that, it's on average about $4 per house annually. This is something that's going to be important. It's going to be something that's going to aid the sheriff with this issue. Again, take a look at it. Prescription drugs, it's becoming something that's not just in the younger age. It's going through the even in the seniors abusing it, and then heroin is now taking over because of how cheap it is. Again, just a great meeting that was hosted by Mercy, the coroner, law enforcement, and other communities. And they're supposed to have more of these events going on throughout the county. If you get a chance, please attend it, learn more about it. Definitely important for all ages, but most importantly our kids. We are seeing some increases there as well. Other issues, but I'll just delay that till next week.
Okay.
Okay, there's nothing.
Mr. President, there was something I forgot. Can I
Yeah,
jump
go
back
ahead.
for a minute?
Yeah.
Remember when we had our building department hearing, the question was, do we need an official resolution dissolving the building department? I did contact the state building department, and they have requested that we have such a resolution.
Do you have one drawn up, or?
I just think we need a resolution declaring the building department to be dissolved and closed.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Okay, there's no clerk's report tonight. Board correspondence?
Move the reading be waived.
Second.
Any discussion, Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Okay. Time for
Okay.
6:15.
Yeah, that clock's a little slow.
That's fine. We can start the meeting
Start.
now. Let's see. Now, I guess it's 6:15 now. We'll start the public hearing, continue from last month in regards to Straw Haag Ditch. Anyone who is wishing to speak tonight, please stand, raise your right hand, and Assistant County Prosecutor Innes will swear you in.
Anybody who thinks they even might want to testify, okay, do each of you swear or affirm the statements you shall give shall be true, that you shall answer unto God or under penalty of the law of perjury?
Jerry, you want to give us a recap, or you just want me to go forward with questioning, bringing up the petitioner? Do you have any words of wisdom to start with? No? Okay, we have no amended petition
No.
that was discussed last time, so we're still on the same petition
Still on the original petition right now.
that we looked at last time.
Yeah.
Does anyone from Twin Lake Homes have any additional comments at all to carry over from the last meeting?
No, just any rebuttals if I need to defend Twin Lakes, I will.
Wayne Mileti, are you here from the engineer's office? Hi, Wayne. We had a lot of questions. There was a lot of
Evening.
discussion at the last hearing. Apparently, no one filed to amend the petition, so there was no look at farther down through the Elyria Cemetery into the river.
No.
So we're at the same place we were a
Same
month ago?
spot. Yes, yes.
Okay, and there's been no changes, no new information?
Not that I know of, no.
Are we allowed to assess Elyria if we were to make it, extend the petition to include the cemetery all the way, and also I think Elyria Country Club, all the way to the river? Are they allowed to be assessed, do you know?
I'm not 100%, but I would think they would be.
I'm sorry, what was that?
They would be.
They would be?
We can assess Elyria?
That'd be a question to Jerry, I guess. Jerry?
I,
you
I,
know,
I had, I hadn't had an opportunity to discuss that with Jerry today. But being that, I don't remember us ever doing an assessment of a municipality on any ditch project we've ever done. So
How many
it's
ditches
it's
do we-
uncharted course.
How many ditches do we actually have that run through municipalities?
No.
That
Almost
we've
every-
done- No, that we've done, though.
Well,
Ditch petitions, cleanups.
on a petition cleanup, none.
No.
Correct.
However, most of our ditches eventually run through
Right.
municipalities.
Yeah, Martin's
So-
Run is in my backyard, I know.
So, you know, it's something to consider. We really should have a clear line of sight to what the legality is of being able to go across a municipality on a project to reach a further destination. Jerry's flipping pages here, so for my next joke, no.
You Seth MacFarlane now?
Well, you know, it came out of the blue, and I didn't get them prepared this afternoon.
Actually, we have an attorney here that may have the answer to that.
Hi, Eric, you gonna join us up here? There's been discussions, no amended petition.
Right.
But there was discussion about taking it through the cemetery and down to the Black River.
Well, considering that I'm here representing the city as an assistant city attorney, I would say that council passed a resolution supporting the petition of Twin Lakes, knowing full well where this ditch runs, and understanding that it runs across city property at some point. The original petition, if you recall, before it was amended, did go all the way to the
Oh,
Black
it did,
River and
okay.
did cross city property. I would say that it was implied in our support of that petition that we would accept whatever assessments would be apportioned to the city accordingly. So I don't know for 100% sure, Jerry, whether or not that can be done by law, but I think we have impliedly consented to that potential assessment by supporting this petition in the first place.
Because the original petition went all the way to the river.
It did.
It was then amended and shortened.
It was amended by recommendation of the county engineer, correct? And I'm sure Wayne can shed more light on that if need be, but my understanding is they looked at it and there wasn't really a need to do anything there, so, you know, having that full petition go all the way to the river there would just increase the cost of the project without having any real benefit to the rest of the community at large. It increases the total amount being assessed. Even if you're dividing it among a few more people, I don't think it divides it enough to make that additional benefit worthwhile. I think that was the idea. Wayne? Yeah. Okay. I didn't want to speak for
So taking it all
him.
the
but-
way to the Black River doesn't do any,
Again, I
Based
not
on
being an
the
engineer,
engineer.
my understanding is there's enough drop-off at that point where there's a lot more flow and a lot less obstruction there in the first place.
It was being maintained.
Yeah. So there's a multitude of factors that make that not worthwhile.
I just remember the first hearing that we had at Twin Lakes where people were saying that there was some blockage near the cemetery, that there was a
There has-
bottleneck.
There has been some testimony, both at the viewing and at the previous meeting here, that some folks feel that there may be, I heard around the bend and then through the
Right, right.
cemetery and so forth, that there may be some issues, so that we clean the upper end of the ditch and nothing's done down there, how much are we really going to accomplish? I'm not the engineer either,
Right.
but I did hear that stated here.
but again, let's go back to our engineer.
I was looking at the area, and of course, Brookdale is maintained at the cemetery, and went over to the Elyria Country Club south of Overland Elyria Road, or east, whatever way you want to say it, and they had a maintenance person there that was maintaining the ditch there also. So the reasoning was, if it's being maintained, do you want to go in there, and what do you want to do? So far from the Twin Lakes in elevation, this is not gonna probably, I wouldn't say would not never, but if the river ever went up to that stage, it wouldn't probably work. But the thing of it is that we had a free outlet there. It's not gonna back up in Elyria Country Club and harm Twins Lake. Elevation change was like 15 feet from Russia Road, we found out, to Albrecht. So this is quite a distance down.
Okay.
For that water to back up, I don't see it would ever happen. But being maintained was the issue. And the petition was to clear and snag and remove debris, and obstacles, and there's none there. So in other
So
words,
it's clear.
we'd be charging them for work that we weren't gonna do. So it didn't fit. Same way with Brookdale.
There's no reason to take it that far. We're far enough where this
Right.
current petition sits.
Right. So we stopped at Russia because that was a spot to stop at, right at the bridge, at the opening. So that's what we did.
Probably, any comments from township trustees? Come on up, Rob.
I got a quick, Wayne, did you walk that entire length to make sure everything was clear?
Yeah, George did. I didn't, but he did. We had one guy walk it, yes.
Please introduce yourself, Robin. Let them know who you are.
Good evening, Commissioners. Rob Scheithauer, Elyria Township Trustee. I'm here to represent some Elyria Township, Carlisle Township, and Amherst Township residents this evening. And I'd like to share with you some information that I'd like to read to you. Can I pass out, give you guys a
Sure.
hard copy? Okay.
Commissioner, I did confirm that city can be assessed.
Thank you.
Okay, what I just gave you guys, I want to kind of read through it, and your third page should be the second page. Okay, so when I go through it, go to the third page if you would. This was a letter that was sent out to 85 of the parcel owners, and I kind of zeroed in on the parcel owners that was paying the higher dollar for their taxes. And I addressed the letter to whom it may concern. You may or may not be aware of the matter being discussed by the Lorain County Commissioners. The owners of the Twin Lakes Mobile Park have petitioned the Commissioners to clean and/or remove obstructions from the Straw Haag Ditch and its lateral ditches at the point where the Straw Haag Ditch intersects Chadwick Drive, continuing south to its intersection with Russia Road, Elyria, Ohio. The following is a nature of work petition for cleaning and removal of all obstructions, including but not limited to silt, debris, log jams, and drift. The first public hearing took place on Wednesday, January 23rd, 2013 at 9:45 a.m. at the office of the Lorain County Board of Commissioners Public Hearing Room, the J. Grant Keys Lorain County Administration Building, 226 Middle Avenue, 4th floor, Elyria, Ohio. About 30 to 35 people were in attendance. Many expressed concerns and issues that with the proposed plan. The minimum cost is estimated to be $134,000. All cost of engineering, construction, and future maintenance will be assessed to the benefit parcel of land. Since the first meeting, 2 fact-finding meetings have taken place, one on January 29th and one on February 6th at the Elyria Township Hall, 41416 Griswold Road, Elyria, Ohio. As a result of those findings, bullet points below will be put forth to the Commissioners at the next public Commissioners meeting. The first bullet point, to determine the petition due to cost to owners. Number 2, ask engineers to explore other options, clean from Albrecht to Russia Road, etc. Number 3, will the benefit of cleaning the Straw Haag Ditch eliminate danger of flooding? And number 4, develop an alternative to the petition process. The next public county commissioners meeting will be held on February 27th, blah, 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 at the time here. Now, on the second page, I got an email from a gentleman named Marshall Sims, and that'll be your third page, okay? And Marshall, or let me read what he emailed me here. Just wanted to pass on a couple comments and thought after today's meeting, having worked as a technician for soil and water 10 years, I worked on many of the ditch projects. My concern is what happens downstream from Russia Road to the Black River if there is a blockage or silt build after the project is finished. The county will not have a legal easement to go onto the property to fix any problems. Most ditches we cleaned, especially ones that heavily wooded vegetation, would clog culverts and create blockage in subsequent rains after initial cleaning. Having a good outlet is the most important part of any drainage project and doesn't get much better than the river. Just wanted to pass this along if it's something your residents want to mention or find it a legit concern. And then Marshall elaborated a little bit on another email. And his points were, or is, a good portion of Twin Lakes was built on Lorain soil, type symbol LY, Lorain soil, as stated by the soil book of the soil and water, has a perch water table and will flood during periods of heavy rainfall. Also, it states that any development will be severely limited due to high water table. If the ditch is cleaned north of Albrecht, the amount of water and velocity will increase towards Twin Lakes, possibly increasing the flooding chances. The culverts under the bike path and Russia Road were installed many years ago based on increased development that has taken place and increased runoff. I would question what size storm they can handle. The engineer's design is based on a 25-year storm, which means any given year there is a certain percentage of chance that an amount of rainfall will occur within a 24-hour period. In the last several years, we had many rainfalls, events beyond what is engineered for and therefore cause flooding. What are the elevations of the catch basins and stormwater outlets of Twin Lakes in reference to the ditch? In other words, at what point will the outlets be submerged, making them inefficient, and at what point will the catch basins overflow and back up, causing flooding? My guess would be the water will back up out of the catch basins into Twin Lakes before the ditch overflows. What engineering factors were the basis for the determination to stop at Russia Road rather than taking it to the Black River? Maps may show 10 feet or more of fall, but until a field survey is conducted, there is no way to determine possible high points or the need of excavation to maintain grade. The county should use stormwater fee they are charging everyone to conduct a survey and design a plan. Once a scope of work is determined and an actual engineer's estimate is created based on a plan, then proceed forward. It will be much better to determine if cost outweighs the benefit with the actual plan of the project. Right now they are giving us a bill before we can see the menu. I would fear if the project moves forward under the petition process, it's going to happen regardless of final cost. The petition should not be approved. Let the engineers do the work, then determine if it should move forward. At this point, too many questions are left unanswered with no determination of cost to move forward. Just want to say that the first meeting, we had the prosecutor's office there, the county engineer's office, the city engineer's office, and a lot of the questions did get answered that day. And the second meeting was to develop the bullet points, and we had approximately 30 people at each meeting.
Which questions that Mr. Sims put out there were answered? You're saying questions were already answered. Which questions were answered?
It was about the process of, let me recall what it was said here. They were asking the county engineers about shooting grade, and they said they was gonna do it, so that answered that question. They was concerned about that before this project went forward. They're all in agreement the ditch needs to be cleaned, but they think it needs to be cleaned to the river.
Well, the engineer's coming, I mean, we've done
Yeah.
ditch projects here before, Rob.
Yeah.
Has the county engineer done a nice job in all the ditch
Oh,
projects you've had?
I agree. I
Okay,
agree.
so we haven't had any
Yeah.
problems with how they're designed or what work they do, correct?
But maybe before, and I'm just asking you if you would consider what I just read here before you make your final say-so on the petition, is all I'm asking, and to consider everything here. That's all I'm asking you.
I'm just asking your opinion
Yeah.
from what we've done with ditches. I mean, a lot of these things are being
Well,
asked.
I worked with Marshall on 5 of the ditches, like I told
Okay.
you earlier. This guy knows what he's talking about.
I'm not arguing that, but have
Yeah.
the engineers ever done a ditch issue that hasn't worked out right or we haven't done our due diligence on?
I would say in our township, no. I mean,
Okay.
yeah. But we need to look at this whole ditch here and
Well,
get
that's
it
what I
clean.
thought too, but,
Yeah,
I mean, it just makes sense to make sure it's gonna flow all the way through.
That's correct.
But if they're being maintained and they walk the whole length of the ditch and they don't see any obstructions or any problems, I would hope that we can take their word for that.
Yeah, my concern is what we're not seeing underneath. That's been my big issue. I mean, we can take a look and something looks clean, but what's going on underneath? And I think what Marshall's talking about is a valid point here. And then with the bend of that ditch going in to the graveyard, I do have a concern on that. I was talking with Mr. Cortez as far as maybe even getting a third party to come in that could take a look at this. Jim, do you want to elaborate more on that, what our discussion earlier today?
Help me out.
Well, it's kind of similar to what Trustee Scheithauer just talked about. I mean, I've listened to all the comments, and we have heard several different opinions on different options, and of course, whether we should be all the way to the Black River, not all the way to the Black River. The fall's good, the fall isn't good. And folks have spoken to the fact that we don't know really, since we have not gone out and looked at the elevations with any other than an eyeball. Does that need to be done before we go
that's what I
forward?
think the residents are getting at. They'd like to see a definite profile shot of these ditches before.
And that's
gonna
gonna take an
say-
outside firm to do.
If we start from the south and we work our way to the end of where the petition is currently,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna know if it's flowing or not, because Twin Lakes, even though it wasn't raining, the ditch is full. So if it's opened up by the petition section, we'll know if it's gonna drain to the ditch, or drain to the river. Correct? I mean, there's
Commissioner Laurie,
standing
what-
water in that
yeah,
ditch, and the
what-
ditch is huge.
What's gonna happen if you move forward with this at a cost factor, and all of a sudden this contractor gets in there and says, hey, I gotta take out 2 feet, not 1 foot? Somebody's gonna absorb the cost. It's gonna be these property owners. Correct?
Well, that's how the petition process works,
Yeah,
Rob. You're asking
yeah,
the questions
yeah.
rhetorical, you know that.
All right.
But they always give an estimate with certain contingencies in
Mhm.
it if there are changes to it.
Now,
Yeah.
I didn't, excuse me a second, Commissioner, I'm sorry, I didn't know we were taking any dirt out of the ditch. I thought we were
Cleaning and,
cleaning the ditch.
Well, where's the silt gonna go?
Wayne, you have an extent of what?
All right, thank you.
all right. Stick around, Rob, in case you have more questions.
I'll be here.
There was discussion, there's gonna be some silt bars, sandbars, that will have to be removed. And that will be-
You're just
we
gonna
will-
go to the original base of the,
Right,
Right.
okay.
exactly.
Yeah, we're not digging down
But-
any farther, but there's gonna be.
Right, once we get it surveyed, we'll know where,
There's a
the
couple
flow
seats up
line
front.
would fit. Probably try to get back to the original ditch line is what we're after.
That's what I thought we were doing. I didn't-
We
I-
wouldn't go deeper than that.
We're not excavating, we're just removing the building.
Clean is right.
Right.
Dipping, they call it. Right.
But I had talked to Commissioner Williams, and I indicated that, maybe we need to get somebody in there to do the survey and look at the elevations and the falls of the ditch, and,
Who's going to pay for that, Jim?
well, it depends on how much it costs.
Yeah, I know that.
Here's what I
The
suggest.
process is always, just so everybody's familiar, this isn't our first ditch. Then normally the petition process goes through, it's approved or disapproved, but if it's approved, it goes forward based on the engineer's estimate, and the work normally falls within their range, and it's done and all the costs are absorbed. If you're talking about another survey in there, to go from one end to another,
Well, the survey's gonna be done either way. It's either gonna be done after we approve the petition, because it has to be done for the cleaning, or
Right.
but
we
then
can
there's
do
a
it.
cost attributed somewhere. Then it
Not
goes
if
into,
the, not if the engineer's office does it.
Let me
go ahead.
kind of back up. This survey is going to be done. The question is, do we survey it before we approve the ditch cleaning to have that information, or do we approve it after the ditch cleaning, after we approve the petition? It's going to be done one way or another. As far as where's the money going to come from, it'll eventually be rolled into the whole project.
What if it isn't approved after the survey's done?
I can't hear you.
If it isn't, if the ditch petition weren't approved after the survey was done, who absorbs the cost of the survey? That's what I'm
Well,
asking.
two things. First, the ditch, something has to be done to this ditch, so something's
Without a
going to be approved. There's no doubt in my mind, some project here is going to be done. Doing nothing is not an answer here at all.
Correct.
So eventually, we're going to recoup the cost of that survey. The extent of what's going to be done, I think, is what's more on the discussion than whether we should do something. I don't know that I've heard too many objections to something being done here. It's what that something is, I think that has been a little bit debated.
I think the issue is being one of their things on here is just because of the cost
Right.
to not do it. So I mean, that's.
It has to be
it's not
done.
doing one. Something has to be done to
Yes.
this ditch to relieve all the flooding.
Yes. So doing the survey before you approve a final project is not going to change that much, but it may relieve some of the concerns, and the data may be somewhat revealing, or at least if it doesn't reveal an additional problem, it'll certainly send a signal that what they're asking to do right now is the proper course of
Or
action.
reinforce what's already been established.
Correct.
Okay.
So I indicated that maybe we want to do that when I spoke with Commissioner Williams, maybe we want to do that. That may put to rest some concerns and justify the project more fully, or will give us an indication that maybe we need to go a little further.
Well, Commissioner Williams said in his discussions with you, we could table this, and I said it's a public hearing.
Well, you could table the project until we get the data.
Right.
I mean, or you could, well, table probably was a bad word. You could
Right.
probably, extend the hearing date again and so forth. I did use the word table, Commissioner Williams. It was probably an appropriate method of going about it. But I wasn't talking about tabling it into non-existence.
Well, tabling normally is.
Well, unless somebody brings it back up to be
Right.
discussed.
Wayne, you have some comments? You came back up, I thought.
No, I'm fine. That's all.
Eric, you have some comments? Eric, introduce yourself. I don't think I had you do that the first time up, and Hal will yell at me.
Sorry about that, Mr. Kalo. Eric Bruenig, Assistant City of Elyria Law Director, 131 Court Street, Elyria. The sentiment here seems to be that we take a look more scientifically, I guess, at the possibility of doing that extra work down to the Black River. Again, that was our original petition. I just spoke to it was Twin Lakes' original petition that we supported. I just spoke to Kim, and we're in agreement. I mean, we have no problem with doing it all the way to the Black River. That's how we asked for it in the first place. My thoughts on this at this point are maybe re-amend it, include that section. Of course, to do that, we have to notify the additional property owners and come back for another hearing. We understand that, but depending on what the engineers find then as part of that survey process, if it needs to be reduced at that point, it's a lot easier to reduce the scope than it is to increase it after this petition process goes through. We would just as soon do it right if we're gonna do this and include that whole area, if that's gonna be the sentiment. I mean, there seems to be a general consensus here that something needs to be done, we just don't know what. And we're all for exploring those possibilities and letting the engineers do their homework. The problem is, my understanding of the engineers department of the county is they don't have authority to go in and look at these things until a petition is started in the first place. They've got no funding for that. It comes from highway funds primarily. So they haven't had a chance to go in and look at this stuff until we petitioned in the first place. So if we extend that out, if we amend it, extend the scope of the petition, give them the chance to go in there and take a better look at this, maybe they're going to find exactly what Wayne thinks they're going to find, and we don't have to worry about it at that point. But
So we
to
need
get this
amend the amended petition.
amend the
original.
amended, absolutely. However we want to,
Or just
state
start
that.
over with the original petition.
Throw out the amendment, but to do that, there are additional property owners in this that haven't probably been notified. Obviously, the city of Elyria is the biggest one, and I'll waive any kind of notice as it comes to them. But I'm not sure, I don't have the map in front of me, who else is going to be involved in that additional scope.
It certainly would be faster to re-amend
Right.
the petition than to
Right.
do a new petition. So if that's what's going to be done, that would be on Twin Lakes, with your assistance, because the city's supporting, to re-amend, or what do we want to call it, modification B, to the petition. And as that is being done, once that's amended, we'll notify the additional affected property owners of the potential
Sure.
that they may be affected at this point, and then we can do the survey. As far as the funding for the survey, we can certainly at least advance the money from stormwater to get that survey done, and then it'll be folded into the project cost when the project is done. There's going to be a project. Can't stay the way it is. That's
Correct.
darn sure.
Do you want to open it up to public?
Do you have any more comments, Eric, or I'll open up to the floor if you don't have anything else?
Well, Jerry and I were just trying to figure out whether this
Legalities.
written application. Well, it doesn't say what form that application has to take, does it? And I could write something up now. But now we're just discussing the possibility of doing this on the record here tonight, amending
Okay.
it. But from what Jerry's finding, it sounds like it has to be in writing.
You have to include all the names of the additional people.
Yeah, you probably
Which
don't
I
have
think
those.
we had originally at one point. Janice, do you have the full file
The
there?
original one, I had to bring everything out for tonight.
Right. If you happen to have that, we might be able to do that now. That would be my
While we're
preference.
listening to public comment, you can. work
Right,
on
and
that.
then if that's the case, then you guys can set a new hearing date even now, and we can just notify the additional owners. I don't think we'd have to notify anybody who,
Why don't
appeared on the
we
original.
have, once you have Janice, look through Janice's file. Janice, why don't you let him have the file? And then there's a few people I saw that had their hand up, so you may want to take testimony
Thank
while
you.
they look through the original
Right.
file.
Got it? Anyone from the audience wishing to speak? Tell us who you are and where you live at, Charlie.
Thanks. Charlie Neff, and my address is 249 Skyline Drive, Elyria, Ohio. And our subdivision owns common property that abuts the ditch, across the ditch from Twin Lakes Mobile Home Park. We own a 6-acre parcel there as the association. 3 acres of that is basically a lake that holds back the drainage from the subdivision, which then overflows to the ditch. My question really has not to do with whether the project should happen or not happen. The question is that the association received notice.
This has been a broadcast of the recent Lorain County Commissioners' General Meeting. Unless otherwise announced, meetings are held Wednesday morning at 9:30 at the Administration Building, 226 Middle Avenue, 4th floor, downtown Elyria. These are public meetings, and you are invited to attend. Agendas are posted prior to the meeting at www.loraincounty.us. Click on Departments, see the Commissioners page, then click on View Agenda for a printable copy of the agenda.
Subdivision goes, that it's billing the homeowners in the subdivision twice. They're paying it as an association, and they're also paying it as individuals, and I just wondered if, I know you're going by whatever the law is, but it just seemed a little bit unfair to me that who's going to pay what the association's being assessed, and that's the homeowners. And again, the homeowners get charged themselves individually, so I just wanted to raise that question.
That's valid. How it's done.
Well, what
What's
they've
everyone
done-
affected in the watershed?
They're all affected in the watershed. You have some common property and some semi-common property within the association, and then you have the land that each homeowner has. They've mitigated. What they're really talking about is mitigation of runoff, because you have some retention ponds that you call a lake.
No, he's
or,
not talking about
right?
that.
It's a 3-acre lake,
Right.
basically.
Well, they do. So what they've done is the water that's coming off of a certain portion of their property are going into these retention basins, which they're paying to maintain as an association.
Yes.
And when the water reaches a certain level, then it spills into the ditch. The question more fully would be, are you going to give credit for those properties that have taken mitigating construction projects or at least slowed the runoff?
Similar to what our stormwater does. given-
Right, exactly.
That's,
So they're not really being double charged, but they are costing to themselves, holding back that water, and then releasing it to the ditch in a more controlled fashion. We do give credit in the stormwater district for mitigating retention and projects that do slow or retain the water onto the people's property and release it in a different fashion. That's going to be up to the board whether you give a credit to that or not.
And not to interrupt, but this is also, we're kind of getting, as an association, we're getting pulled in a couple of directions, or we're pushed from two sides. In 2012, we were contacted by the city of Elyria in some sort of an agreement that they have with the EPA around stormwater. They're wanting to enter into some sort of a maintenance agreement with all the landowners who hold these kinds of wetland or lake areas. Initially, they wanted to have these agreements in place by the end of 2012, but we've gotten no word back from the city of Elyria with regard to that, so I have no idea even, you know, as the treasurer of the association, what to tell the homeowners to expect. I mean, we're getting this thing with the ditch, and then I don't know what the city of Elyria or the EPA is going to require around maintenance of that lake and that property around the lake.
I couldn't help you with that.
It's really kind of, I don't know what's going on here. And
Yeah,
if
Charlie,
they make a requirement to make a change in the way the water transitions from the lake to the ditch,
Well,
I don't know how that might
what's been
impact this
happening,
either.
property owners, they build and they do work on stormwater retention projects, and then over time, those projects aren't maintained on site, and then you run into even more problems with water flowing into the ditches and/or pollution in some of those retention basins. I can't help you with the EPA inside the city, but I do know that they've been looking at this pretty closely over the last couple of years.
Okay, thank you.
Sir?
Haven't got a whole lot to say. I'm Ken Prechtel. I live on West Ridge Road. I was a trustee for 16 years in the township. My big question was, and it still is a question, how I ended up getting assessed $3,000 for this project when I only have one tile going into that ditch that I share with my neighbor. And his assessment's like $74. I don't know who come up with the equation. I figured they come up with this $100 an acre. Pie in the sky, because Mr. Forthover got whacked almost $10,000. I don't feel personally that it's my obligation to put so much money forward to solve a problem that Elyria created several years ago. I was on the board of trustees when Mike Keys was out there grabbing all the property he could grab, and I was on the trustee board when Bill Grace continued grabbing property with nobody figuring out who was going to pay the piper. And now, because most of this ditch is running through township properties, suddenly the residents of the townships are getting stuck with the majority of the cost. That is not right. I would think that Twin Lakes should be the ones putting up most of the cost, because ownership back in the day was informed just exactly what you heard tonight, that they're sitting on a sponge. And that's part of the reason that you got two lakes out front, was to handle the runoff. I think that somebody should look at a retention basin to the east of Twin Lakes, and that basically would solve the problem. Another problem was when Metro Parks took over and made a bike trail, they shut off one complete side that was used as drainage. When the Norfolk and Western went through there, they had ditches on both sides of that bike trail that handled a lot of runoff water, including what comes from the county jail. I just want to point out also that I've lived on my land for 40 years. And there's a ditch that runs parallel to my land that drains into Straw Haag. I went to the engineer 15 years ago, and oh, that's not our ditch. Well, then a very, very excellent employee, John Hamilton, worked for the engineer at that time. And John and I got into the archives. That is a county ditch. Well, for 40 years, the county has denied ownership. Well, I did a little research myself, and the county runs a catch basin on West Ridge Road, and they also run tile from Albrecht south to the catch basin, and then they run West Ridge north on that same side of the road to that catch basin. Drains into our ditch. Well, if that turns out to be my ditch, the county will have a problem because I got several friends that can fill that ditch up. I don't need that ditch. But the petition talked about tributaries. As far as I'm concerned, that is a tributary. And if you don't do nothing with that, then you might as well not do nothing with Straw Haag, because I'll fix it so you don't drain West Ridge Road. It's baloney. We're suffering in the townships because of what the big shots did in Elyria, and then with the commissioners such as they were, Mrs. Blair always voted which was politically correct. Mr. Kalo supported Mrs. Blair, and Mrs. Kokoski kind of stuck with the little guys. But 2-1, you get beat. I can talk about a annexation that took place on Indian Hollow Road, an island, but it went through. The one developer is dead. The other developer went bankrupt, and the Polish club quit wanting to move their building. So here we are with the city of Elyria, 150 acres out in the middle of nowhere, that someday, if somebody develop it, the townships are going to be stuck paying for the sewer that goes in front of their homes to that annexation. And all I'm really saying, without pounding a dead horse, Twin Lakes got their way back in the day. And nobody ever worried about what was going to happen today. And now the townships are being asked to support this, and it's not right.
How many acres do you own? Because you said you have a $3,400.
Right, I own 30.65 acres. The woods is a wetland. The
But
woods
your
on
neighbor
the,
only owns a small portion because his was only $70?
yeah, see, but we both share that same tile, and I don't drain any more water from my house or my foundation than he does. But because I got 30 acres, I got to pay $3,000? No way. I'm 72 years old. I can't afford that kind of whack. And then whoever did the research and sent me the bill had my ex-wife's name on it. She hasn't been on my tax return for the last 4. But all of a sudden, why, we got old Barbara on there and she don't belong. I don't know where they dig this information up. It's a bunch of malarkey. So I would ask the commissioners to just, instead of doing what is politically correct, look at the whole story. Yeah. I asked Kearney's new lackey over there at the garage, Rick Domenico, to come over and take a look at the problem I had. Might as well talk to my armpit. I never seen Rick. You know, so, but the only time I see anybody like Mileti is when they're trying to get into my pocket. And what we're saying here tonight, he won't show up at my house tomorrow to see what I'm talking about. But I did my best over the years to keep them ditches when the trees fall in, to get them the heck out of there. kind of keep some kind of flow. But if I'm gonna be docked $3,000, I'll get a backhoe and we'll put in some tile, and I'll have $3,000 worth of drainage into that Straw Haag Ditch. And that's all I gotta say. I really appreciate your time, listening to an old guy ramble on, but keep the people in mind. This is more than just the city of Elyria. You know, and I don't see why some grant money couldn't be found to fund this. But it's a gross inequity to take Mr. Forth over for $10,000, Prechtel right next door for $3,000. That's $13,000 from two guys to finance the project. Baloney. Thank you.
Someone was going to speak next. I know was standing up somewhere.
Mr. Abraham?
Oh, okay.
You still have to tell us who you are, even though we know.
Okay, yes. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is John Abraham, and I have 3 questions. At the last public hearing meeting, there was something stated about an $18 per year tax for drainage. Is that correct?
Yes.
There's a stormwater fee, yes, for the stormwater district.
And that is for every parcel in Lorain County?
No, only the unincorporated areas.
Well, okay. Unincorporated areas in Lorain County.
Townships. Okay. I'll
Okay.
make it clear, so it's for
Well,
townships, not the
we're
cities.
getting too technical here, but
Okay.
the ideal is that there's money raised for that purpose. And then the question becomes, everybody's talking about who's gonna pay for the engineering fee to find out exactly what is needed there, to find out what grade is. Why can't that engineering cost come out of that tax money that's coming in?
Well, Mr. Cordes suggested that we advance it from the stormwater district to fund that, but then eventually that would roll up into the entire project.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. My problem is, I think we need to do the engineering before we suggest a plan. And like somebody says, without a plan or a blueprint, you can't give a cost.
Actually, I think I agreed with you.
Yeah, I think
Well, it's
everyone up
common
here does,
sense,
right?
and thank you.
I think everyone up here.
All
Yeah, I
right,
think we
let's
all
see.
agree.
That's not
Yeah.
out of the ordinary, but we normally go by what his estimate is, and then they bring it back to us when it's all figured out.
How can you estimate something without
They
a
usually
blueprint?
do. I mean, somehow they do it.
After the fact. They give us whatever the experience. I'm not an engineer. None of us up here are. So he goes forward, and those numbers are normally
Pretty close.
real close on all the ditch
Usually under.
projects.
Usually
Right,
it comes
normally
back
less.
under. He usually estimates high, so.
Jerry, you ready
Well,
to say something?
Commissioner, that's actually what happens. This first hearing is a decision whether to authorize the engineer to go forth and develop specific plans and exact estimates. So the original decision that's made, but there is a cost in doing that. So you have this first initial hearing to decide whether to go to the second step of drawing up all those plans and the actual estimates. The amount of assessments to each person might change based on what happens. We then come back for a second hearing, which is the hearing to decide whether it actually goes forward, and at that time, the residents will have their exact amount. So it's a two-step process. First,
what we've been
this
doing.
is just the process
This is
to
what we've
order
been
the
doing.
plans to be done. Then we come back for a second hearing after the plans have been done, surveys have been done, and the actual costs have been determined. And then there's a second hearing to actually go forth with the improvement. So it's 2 stages. You
That's
get two
fine, but it
chances
could
to-
cost us
two
$250,000
chances to
by the
object.
time it's done, is what you're telling me. All right, 2 more questions that I had. Has the county engineer's office done a GPS grade on the fall from Chadwick to Albrecht and from Albrecht to Russia? And I have done that. with the help of those that have that kind of equipment. And there's 13 feet of fall from Albrecht to Russia. And then from Chadwick to Albrecht, there's none. So we could clean that ditch all the way from Chadwick to Albrecht, and you're still going to be level. So all you're doing is making a big pond out of a large ditch. And the third question I have, it was brought up at, I think, one of the township meetings, that at some point, that water is supposed to run north. And my question to the county engineer is, at what point does that water run north? Is it where Straw Haag becomes Haag Ditch, or what? And maybe there's somebody in this room that could answer that question better than I can, or the engineer. Those are my questions.
That would have to be,
and thank
the
you
last
very
two would
much.
have to be to Wayne.
Right. Yeah, I'm sorry. Wayne? Wayne?
Wayne Mileti?
Sir, can you hang on a second, please? Sir?
My name's Corrin Burrer. I don't have any land that's being assessed. I represent the Church of Open Door. And I was born on West Ridge, on the land you're talking about. I farmed the land that belonged to the Church of Open Door for probably 40 years. Prior to that, my granddad owned the biggest share of the land in that area. I farmed the county property that where the jail is for the last 15 years. We have no problem with water where the jail property is because you got the bike track there. And if you don't make that culvert underneath the bike path bigger, all you're doing is trying to have a bigger retention basin. Twice in the last 15 years, you've paid money to have the ditch cleaned out, get the rubbish out. All you did was make a bigger retention basin. That was called a swamp area. When my granddad bought that farm in 1922, there was 100 and some acres and he could only farm about 60. The rest of it was flooded most of the time, but the CC boys come in the 30s and cleaned it out. After that, when he had a couple good years of farming, he put some tile in and they worked. That ground was some of the best ground in Lorain County after that. But when they sold out because it got a good price and he didn't have nobody want to take over the farm then. Consequently, we built all them houses out there. And now we're trying to take care of the water. The man here talks about where the water goes north and south. I don't know what's going to happen to the south part, but City of Elyria paid to have the ditch cleaned halfway north. About 4 years ago, maybe 5 now. They told us they would put another 4-foot culvert underneath old Route 113 or Lowell Street. They didn't do that. Now, when it floods, like you're talking about flooding at the trailer park, the land that belongs to Church Open Door, instead of going halfway up to West Ridge, it almost goes all the way to West Ridge now when it floods, because they cleaned the lateral out that comes from all the way over on Prechtel Road. The water gets there quicker, but it still got the olds underneath the road on 113, same sluice we had there 50, 100 years ago. The only reason the church agreed to let them do it before was they was supposed to put another 4-foot culvert underneath there. They come back, and John Hamilton, who was the man who worked with him at that time, felt they couldn't because it was sandy there, they couldn't get a good base for it. And I'll say it's a bunch of BS, because the biggest trouble was if you got rid of the water faster, it'd go down here to the mall and flood out the mall, because that's where the water ends up from that river. On top of it, years ago, that water could either go north or south, whichever would have to be the easiest way to go. I can't tell you the exact year, but it's been probably 50 years, or maybe 40 at least, that the bridge fell down right at the center where the high or low part was going north or south. Checked with the county, they didn't want to put it back in. City of Elyria was not involved at that time. County said, do what you want with it, so we just left it fill in. Approximately 10 years ago, I got the Corps of Engineers permission to close the ditch in for 200 feet because it wasn't doing nothing. The water didn't come up there because what you'd done down south there by the thing. Consequently, your 134,000 will not even touch that ditch because you've got almost 2 foot of fall, I mean, not 2 foot of fall, but dirt in there from where the pumping station is up to Chadwick Drive. When I filled it in, I did not know that there's a tile there that comes out of Chadwick Drive that's supposed to go to that ditch. We thought it went into the holding basin there and went out southeast. Come to find out, it fills up the holding basin. It's supposed to come back, go out to the ditch. We couldn't see it, so we filled it all ditch back in. The city called up about next spring there. They had a real bad flood, went all the way back up to them apartments. Come out and help us out. So I went back with my excavator. We dug it out. 2 foot down below the bottom of the ditch silt, there's a tile there, 18-inch tile. There's enough pressure, we dug it out, there's enough pressure most times so far, it's kept it clean. You've got almost 2 foot of dirt to clean out there from where the pumping station is up there. Hasn't been nothing done that since they dig the ditch first time. You've always stopped at the pumping station, you didn't go any farther when you cleaned it out before. And all you do when you're going to clean it out is just make a bigger retention basin. On top of it, Jay Fowles farm goes all the way, the ladder from that there comes all the way from Prechtel Road east. They had to clean that out probably 5 years ago because the trailer park there complained about the water backing up, not getting out there, so they cleaned it out. That made more water than ever getting down there. The other thing is you're going to clean the laterals that are on this ditch. You clean the laterals out, they're full of trees, and you talk about estimates. It's going to cost you a lot more than that to get it done. On top of it, you're going to increase the water flow that's held back now by the trees that's there. From the bike path south, the county owns the property there, 100 and some acres on this side of the ditch, all clean. Mr. Poland bought the adjoining property, used to belong to Schuster's. They cleaned off, putting all the trees on there and kept it mowed. Your problem right now is the Epley property that hasn't been cleaned out. But like the man said, you ain't got no fall from Albright Road up to Chadwick. It's flat. And from there south, you don't have no fall unless you go across Russia Road and go out through the cemetery. And nobody's want to do that because then the water's going to get over in the Elyria Country Club and flood out everything. And I've been around, I'm 85 years old. And I've been involved in that land there. I was born on that farm. And I know about it. I was on soil conservation for 35 years, and I'll say this, Lorain County's got the poorest ditch program of any county in the state of Ohio. And yet we got how much foot of fall from here to the lake. All we did is Band-Aid, never fixed the ditches like we should. Now we got trouble trying to go through Amherst, the Lorain, the water out. We clean the ditches out, it's gonna flood them people out. This particular ditch right here, you're wasting time if you don't do something and go from Russia Road south to the cemetery. Either that, you can clean out the 200 foot that I put in the ditch, put a 4-foot culvert on up there on Old Street, and let the water go either way, but then you're going to flood out the mall if you don't do something else, because that's where it is, or else it's going to flood all that drop in there. The only other alternative, and you had other plans years ago, was go along the railroad tracks all the way to the river. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to spend the money. But the city of Elyria should be picking up this tab because it's all in Elyria. Biddingers never should have been able to build that trailer park where they did. But Bidinger and his partner controlled all the sewer over there. If maybe you people know it or not, but they had the right for anybody else to hook on that sewer but them. They built the houses they could, and they didn't build any more houses farther east than what they did right over Chadwick Drive because it all floods. So they quit. They started there and built the first trailer park, and then they decided, hey, we got all this other land up here. That's there. So they started building on the west side of that, where it's higher. Did all right. Well, then they started now, we're going all the way to the ditch. Well, we had some dry weather for a long period of time, and it worked all right. But if you walk out there and look at that, they got a great big sluice comes out. When the water, it just backs up, and it's just like a suction goes back to the west again. You can clean the ditch out, it'll help some, but you're going to have to go all the way down through the cemetery, and if you don't do that, you're wasting your money and time and effort. It's just like the north part. The city paid the biggest share of the cost to get that done. All it did was make a bigger catch basin for the Church of the Open Door, and if I was on the Church of the Open Door board, I'd sue the city of Elyria for the damages. Because according to the law, you cannot create more water than what runs naturally. And nobody's been pushing that, but it was 15, 20 years ago, things stopped a lot of development. And just putting in catch basins, we got a big catch basin right there, and they let them dig a big catch basin there on some of the best ground so they could build some apartments up on the side up there. All that does when it floods, it fills up, and it don't take much longer to fill it up. Granted, it needs to be done for the thing, otherwise that, I told him before in a couple of meetings, put a 10-foot dike up along that trailer park there, block off any outlets in it, and put a pump on the other side, and pump the water out. That's what we do out in Iowa and states like that, where you've got water like that, and you've got big rivers that flood. You put a 10 or 15-foot wall up there, the water can't go over it. That's the lowest, if you check that out, where that trailer park is almost flat to the ditch. There's no bank up along the side there. You get over on the property belongs to the county, you've got a 10-foot ditch down there all the time. Water never floods there. It's just the way it's made. That was one of the lowest parts where they put that trailer park, all on that ditch. But your 134,000 will not even touch that ditch today. And I've talked to some other contractors, and they know the worst is on top of it, they piled up dirt there that they were intended to do when they put that last catch basin in. And there's no way to get along with equipment. They're going to have to move a lot of dirt just to get in and clean the ditch out. It's just not, and it's clean. There's no trees growing, but the dirt piled up there. And they didn't want. Well, years ago we offered to haul the dirt away, but they kept it because they figured someday he was going to fill it all in. They'd have sewers out there and take care of it. I don't know. I think you're going around saying.
You have a lot of good information.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The other thing, we got no more money for soil conservation. We don't even have a working crew there anymore. And if you did have, you could have done this for about half cost of what you're talking about, if we could have used them. When you hire private contractors and you're talking now, you said you're gonna get the plans. All we end up doing is spend a bunch of money on plans that we're not gonna be able to work. And that's gonna be money wasted. Thank you.
Thank you. Wayne, could you answer a couple
Lot of
of
background
Abraham's
knowledge.
questions?
I don't think I'm that old. I don't remember the history. I haven't been around the area that long. But I'll tell you what I do know. We shot some elevations on the pipe at Chadwick. Okay, we got the flow line. GPS that, 679.97. We went to the lift station because I knew that tile goes under, I believe it's a concrete drive, and I knew that tile was gonna possibly either be too high or based on the flow of the ditch. And it came out to 60.47. I got a half a foot of fall. Then I went to Albrecht, shot that culvert, the 9x9, and it came out 757.52, which is almost 3 foot of fall from the lift station. So the outlet pipe at Chadwick, I got 3.5 foot fall to the culvert at Albrecht.
Okay, so you got 3.5.
Now, he can
foot.
dispute that, but that's what we got. I mean, that's what we got. And then from there to Russia Road, and that's a bridge, so he's got a silt bottom. We had an elevation of 744.80. So in that general terms, that's almost 13 foot fall. And from there on down to the river, I probably got 20. I don't know. It'll be a lot more than that. And how that, excuse me, and how that, so I don't understand why the Elyria Country Club is going to bother this flow. It's so low, there's no way it can bother it. It can't back up, so how's it going to bother it? It's going to be a free flow. And when it hits Brookdale, it's going to be free flow. We got one little parcel there, south of Russia, very small. I believe Larry owns it. It's just a matter of a couple little small trees. Tows that down. It could be done right now by Larry if it wanted to. I don't see the reasoning putting that in the petition. I really don't.
Well, Larry actually recommended it, and he's standing behind you, Eric.
Okay, well, that's my point, and it comes from the office too.
Sure.
So this is what we got, and this part about the Haag going north and the part about it going south, I don't know what he's really talking about. I mean, they say they can show me, but I'd like to see it. But we petitioned that Haag Ditch years ago, and that water all goes north, and it breaks at Turner Boulevard. Yeah, there's some ditches out there filled in. Larry's already told me that, but we're going from Chatfield south, that's where we're going. That's the flow we're looking at. See, we're trying to get flow in this ditch, that's our main point.
Right.
It's not flowing. And 2 foot of this and 2 foot of that, whatever it is, we'll get into that. We get into this, the actual design. So you can't really sit here and talk really without any factual evidence, especially with elevations. That's the biggest key. You can only do so much drainage work depending on your fall. This is how you can move the water. You know, if you have problems, then you got to look at other ways. And detention, it could be a possibility, but detention on this ditch could be expensive, or alongside it. If you acquire property, you're talking so much an acre. And you need good size to really capture the water before it got to Twin Lakes. Is that your full intent? I thought our intent was to restore flow in the ditch. Thank you.
Eric, you have some comment?
Only that I've taken a look through the file and just based on everything that's been said, if we are going to amend this to include everything down to the Black River, it looks like, based on what I've been able to go over with Wayne, there are 2 additional property owners. We're one of them. We've already been notified. The other ones, Elyria Country Club, they have not been notified as far as I can tell. So I guess the question comes down to, if we want to amend this thing, do we want to spend a bunch more time that we're going to have to rehash with somebody who hasn't been notified to have another hearing here, or do we want to just continue this at this point and do this again later when we can have everybody here who's going to be present? Elyria Country Club owns a lot of land. They're going to have a pretty big assessment. I have a feeling they'd have someone here and they'd want to be interested in this if that's going to be the case. On the other hand, if you want to rely on Wayne, who is, as far as I can tell, the only qualified expert who's testified at this point, based on credentials, it doesn't sound like we need to do that at all. That's up to you guys. I'll take my cue from you whether we should amend it or not, but I do question if we are going to amend it and have another hearing, how much additional time we want to spend tonight on testimony when we've got a very large property owner who's going to be interested in these proceedings as well, who hasn't been notified of these proceedings. That was all.
Commissioners, answer this question. Do we need to amend it after everything the engineers told us?
And that's something for you guys.
I don't see a reason
I
to
would,
amend it.
I would go with the amendment. So, I still have some questions on it. I would go with the amendment, but.
Why? You want to ask the questions? Tom, help us out.
Well, no, I think the individuals here that have talked about, there are questions. I don't have a map here to go through to point out the issues on it, but I think if we go through this, I think we're gonna still have a flooding issue down there. That's my main concern. I don't think it's gonna resolve the issue.
I guess let me ask one question to Wayne, who I think I know the answer. I think you guys know too, but just for the record's sake. Wayne, do you think the petition, as it's been currently submitted down to Russia Road, will be a benefit, will improve the flow of that ditch once it's been executed? And do you think it would add anything to include anything down to Black River?
That's what I'm going by. I was going by the engineers. And this isn't assessing anybody yet. This is getting the cost. I think everybody thinks we're just going to pass something and you're stuck with a bill. That's not what this is about here. This is the first hearing to discuss what the process is. Then the engineer goes out, figures out exactly what has to be done, comes back with a cost estimate. Then you will all receive notification of what the possible assessments are and what the maintenance costs are if the project's approved by the Board of Commissioners.
What's wrong with just going through, having it assessed, borrowing the money from the funds and taking a look at it? The stormwater sewer funds, actually advancing that.
That's what we said, to do
Right.
to do the survey.
But we don't have to. If we just approve to
Right.
go forward, it will just go right into the current engineering that's done. It won't set a different process.
Right, so you're gonna approve the process without doing the study.
The study will be
Study
done,
gets
and
done after
we're
we approve the
approving, we're
process.
approving the process for them to go forward. We're not approving a ditch project
We're not
yet.
approving an
I think that's the
assessment or
confusion.
anything.
And I think, Rob, maybe that's some of the confusion with some of these people. They think we're approving a ditch project. We're not. We're approving the survey to get an assessment of what the exact costs are gonna be. Everything else has been done by GPS, topography, experience on what they think it needs. We haven't done any of that yet, and it's been quite clear. So all this would do is put it in the process for them to look at and get us real cost on the project.
And then, Mr. President, at that point, they would have, everyone here would have an opportunity to come forward in front of you guys again
Correct.
and object and, or, you know, be a proponent or whatever the case may be, based on the real numbers that the engineers and whatever outside companies are hired come up with.
And those would be the numbers we could look at prior to that date to see if we see anything that's in inequity or not proper based on all the testimony we've had so far.
Absolutely, but there will be another hearing process that people can
Always.
get involved in and have a voice in. Thank you.
I'm comfortable with the way it currently is to go forward with this amended one, not a new amended one, and to move forward on the engineers to get us the actual cost and surveying the ditch project so we can get accurate costs and what we're actually looking at. I don't know why we got this thing to have a survey beforehand and everything else. I'm kind of, it's not what we've ever done, and there's no need for it because we're doing the process now.
I still have concerns. I think it's gonna need to go through. I think.
We won't know that until they do an
But
assessment
going
of
through
it.
and doing, having the reamendment of this and having it brought in.
We're not doing a reamendment.
We could do a reamendment.
And again, based on the engineer's recommendation, if he gets down there through the survey, Commissioner, and says, oops, we got a problem, you're gonna notify us, correct, Twain? Yes. That's the process we've always had. Oops, something came up we didn't see. Here's what we need to change to. We need to grab 9 more landowners, you know. We can get rid of 6 landowners based on what we've come up with our assessment.
And I will assure you that as the petitioners in this project, if that happens, if we get that communication from Wayne or from you, we will fully support an amendment to include that additional area.
As our administrator said, something has to be done out there, and I agree, the flooding is horrendous for all the property owners. That we have to take care of this issue where everything drains it. Some have it worse than others, some have none. But I think we need to move forward with getting the actual cost and work that has to be done.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Sir? Oh, go ahead,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry,
No, that's
Commissioner,
okay.
go
That's
ahead.
all right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, my name's Ron Hennis. I live at 43228 Albrecht Road. And this book here come from the library. It's down through the years of Elyria. And that same area in here is referenced as the East Swamp because it has always been low. I don't know how many acres were involved there, but it had to be in the hundreds. And when you let the bus garage build there, and the next guy next door all he's did is make a parking lot almost as deep as the back of the trailer park. And the bus garage has got a swell that's almost 3 foot high. And the trailer park is about 3 feet below that. So instead of the water running into what was always wetlands, and I don't know how it ever got changed, instead of running into the acres of wetlands, it's running into the trailer park now. So I think the city, I believe it's city property, is it not?
Yes, Twin Lakes sits in.
No, the other side. The bus garage and from there
Coming
up going up towards
Coming up where First Student is.
Everything north of Albrecht is city property.
Okay. That it's in the
Well,
city.
Eric's saying no.
This, right. Okay. But anyway, someone's dropped the ball there letting these people build all this stuff, and now Twin Lakes is paying for it. Someone should have been paying attention. Twin Lakes, for one, we're going to suck all this water up. This last meeting that was here, the one man that talked when they built the other allotments off of Murray Ridge, he says he can't even get water to that ditch. Okay, when they built them allotments, there's 2 ponds, 3 ponds back there. Between them 2 or 3 allotments back in there.
Well, I'm from Horizon homeowners, and we're directly.
Sir, you can't, you gotta come
Oh,
up to the.
okay. Okay, but anyways, I know there's at least 2 ponds back there. Where did all that dirt go? Did it get hauled out? I believe it just built up where they built the houses. So what did that do? Just push more water into another smaller area. And then that's what I've got to say about that. Then the other thing is, if the cemetery and the golf course, they can keep their ditch clean. Maybe Twin Lakes needs to work a little harder getting the dirt and the tires, the washing machines that get thrown in there from the trailer park out. Let them maintain their ditch a little bit. Why should we have to pay for it?
I don't think it's an issue with Twin Lakes ditch. It's deep, it's wide, and it's full of water.
You can't just keep making it deeper or it's making a
That's what I mean.
pond.
It's not flowing. It's somewhere
Exactly.
downstream is plugged up.
The culvert underneath Albrecht, today not, but the other day had about this much water in it. And that ditch was full of water. You know, it can only flow down to the bottom of that culvert. You gonna rip all the roads up and change the culverts? I don't think they're gonna do that. So, I mean, you just keep, the water used to run where the wetlands were. Now, for some reason, it's not wetlands. And Twin Lakes is the wetlands. So I don't know, someone screwed them. And I would say that was the city, by letting them build everything else and just putting stone and stone and stone in.
And you could be right about everything that you're saying, but what do we do now? We have to resolve the problem.
Well,
we always inherit all these kinds
I
of things.
guess Twin Lakes needs to put a dirt wall up, just like their neighbor did, as high as them, and then I guess when the water gets high, it'll just run over the road. Then the city can figure that one out. I guess the city needs to stop just saying, well, we need more tax revenue, so we'll let them build more houses. There's some places you can't build a house. But it seems like everything just keeps getting changed, just like that other man said. There's 3 builders, one of them's dead, and it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission.
You know Lorain Albert?
I did.
That's his favorite saying.
Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Hannah.
God rest his soul.
Is there anyone else wishing to present tonight before I make a motion to close the public meeting?
You have to come up and tell us your name and address.
Tell us your name and your affiliation.
My name is John Riffle, and I am the president of the Horizon Homeowners Association out there, and I spoke to you all before. And, I don't want to repeat what I've been saying, but we would ask you that you would deny the petition and until we can get a better way of doing this so that the cost is equally distributed amongst who is guilty of flooding the ditch, who's trying to hold the water back. And I don't want to go over what Charlie had, same things Charlie had to say, but I represent 28 homes out there, and the majority of my people say, we're paying you to keep this pond so that it holds the water back, doesn't cause a flooding to the problem. Now you're going to charge us again for we're going to have to increase association fees in order to pay the fee for the pond, and then we're going to have to pay so much a year for each individual home. So we're getting it double all the way around. So we ask that you would deny the petition.
Just to respond to you, we are only, if we make the motion move forward, is to get the estimate done on what the work actually has to be done in actual cost. We are not approving a ditch project as of yet. So until we know all the scenarios, like you just asked us to.
I know, but one step leads to the next.
But we can stop it in the process anytime. I mean, if the estimate comes back and it's $1 million because they were way off, then we just say no.
Right, it stops.
Yeah.
We don't know. We need the information just like you do.
Right,
That's why we're doing our
kind of walking in the dark.
Right, we're doing
Well,
our.
I know, but you have people here saying this is the way it should be. It should go forward. Then I'm standing here saying my people says, let's not go forward. Let's stop it here.
And the nice part about it, we get to make that decision either way on how it goes. So if we don't get all the information we need, Commissioner Williams is asking for information. Commissioner Kokoski, myself,
I
we don't
understand
have
that.
the information until the engineer moves forward and puts something together for us. And once we have a final project, a cost, and what they're exactly going to do, we can't make a decision anyway.
I understand that.
Well, let me ask a question to our attorney here. If we do go forward and we get the actual assessment, are any of the residents able to mitigate some of their assessment if they have a retention basin or anything like that, like we do with the stormwater district.
That could be considered in a determination of the benefits to each property.
Okay, and then the other question, I think Mr. Prechtel may have left already, but the only way, is there other ways to figure the assessment besides per acre?
I'd have to check with the engineer's office.
Okay.
I took some notes to take a look into that.
Okay.
That's what I was getting to. Is, you know, is there any other way that?
Well, that's what we're gonna look
that we
into
could do
those
this? I mean,
things
we're
too.
not against helping our neighbor, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm always here to help people and do what I can for them, but, you know, sometimes people have to do things to help themselves too, so, we thank you for listening to us, and we'll talk to you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rob?
Just a couple things here. I'd like to thank Jim Cordes for his input this evening, okay? And the commissioners, I think if you did amend the petition, it would be a step in the right direction. And I really think we need to consider listening to our elders. Thank you.
Hi.
Doug Skladden, 9136 Murray Ridge Road, Elyria Township. I spoke to you last time about water behind my property, but what I wanted, you're talking about getting the cost. That's good, but
just
we're
the
also
cost, it's
supposed
right.
to get the benefits.
Right, that's what we.
And established. And out of the code, it says that part of the benefit that is supposed to be determined is the total volume of water draining into or through the improvement and the amount of water contributed by each landowner. That's part of the code, am I correct?
I think so.
So is that going to be done also? Because a lot of us have a problem with how much water we're contributing to that ditch, even though we're listed as owners in the watershed area. So I would hope that benefits are looked at, all the benefits that are listed in the code, not just the cost.
It's what the engineer presents to us, Mr. Skladden, and once he brings all that back to us, those are all the additional questions we ask, and you'll have the opportunity to ask also
Thank you.
in the next public hearing.
Anybody else?
Nobody raised his hand, we didn't get it.
My name is Jim Zelenka, live at 10800 West Ridge Road. City of Elyria, I have 2 parcels of property that will be affected from this, and I also rent the land Mr. Prechtel owns. So I have another area affected by this. We all know hard surfaces do not drain water as well as farmland does. As Mr. Prechtel stated, he's gonna have an absorbent amount of bill for this, where most of his water is absorbed in the ground. Twin Lakes apparently wants to expand their park further and put more homes in, I'm assuming, and to mitigate some water problems they have there. As a child growing up on West Ridge Road, my bus went down Albrecht Road. During a moderate rainstorm, the bottom step of the bus would be in the water. A lot of times we'd have to turn the bus around and go back the other way. Twin Lakes Homes area used to be in Carlisle Township. Another annexation the county commissioners allowed. If it never would have been allowed, we wouldn't have this problem today, along with other annexations going on with Carlisle Township. The issue here is the depth of the ditch. Twin Lakes has been cleaned many times along that area, and I'm sure the bottom of that ditch is below the bottom grade of the culvert pipe going underneath that. A problem we've had along our road behind me also was back when we had the railroad through there. The railroad would never maintain the ditch they had on both sides, which interrupted all the drainage through all of the county. The bike path took over that ditch, did nothing with any drainage. The drainage culvert pipe that's going underneath the bike path now, I would like to know what the elevation is on that compared to what the elevation is at the bottom of the ditch at Twin Lakes. When we talk about having more fall going across, that means Albrecht Road will have to be tore up, the culvert pipe lowered. Russia Road will have to be tore up, the culvert pipe lower to get the proper fall that they're gonna need to drain at. Trees in the ditch, I'm certain there's many. Is it interrupted with the fall over these years? Probably a little bit, but it slows down retention of water to ease drainage going in and everything in the future. The ditch probably needs to be cleaned. The cost, if it's split amongst amount of people like Elyria Country Club, is going to be a greatly reduced amount to every landowner there is. And who more that can afford it than a major corporation that makes good money, not your residential homeowner that is fighting with every monthly bills and increased property taxes. Property taxes. People in our county are already paying a stormwater management fee. So you're going to annex them, I'm sorry, not annex them, but require them to pay a portion of this new ditch cleaning? We're already paying that. Where I live, there's a ditch dug by the 3 Cs. That was a hand-dug ditch during the Depression to help put people to work. That ditch is no longer on county record. If we want to have that ditch cleaned, we have to have all the property owners that drain into that ditch agreed upon. If one person does not agree with that, it cannot be cleaned.
For the county or for?
It was a county ditch, but they say it's not on the records anymore, so now it's a private ditch.
So, okay, I got you.
We
Down
have
at my
in the
corner.
past required 100% participation.
But
Correct.
it's not a county ditch.
Well, it actually is,
Private.
he's saying is a county ditch that they don't claim. Is that the same ditch the other gentleman was talking about, that Ken Prechtel was talking about, or no?
It attributes into the same ditch.
Okay,
Okay?
all right.
A homeowner down at the end of the intersection of West Ridge and Russia was allowed to put a greatly reduced size pipe in that now when we have great waters come up, it blows out the top and runs across the road. That's not proper stormwater management. The ditch from that side across the street is on Mr. Sims's property, which his grandfather cleaned that ditch out by hand to the bottom of the sandstone, what, about 25 years ago, Wayne? By hand, 1.5 miles, 2 miles. Every tree, everything, right down to the sandstone bottom of it. So you're looking at all these different ways of doing things. We have a lot of people not working. A lot of people can't afford all those additional taxes added onto the property taxes forever when they're already paying for this at this time. I think Elyria Country Club, City of Elyria, through Brookdale Cemetery needs to be added onto this and has to be added onto this to make it equitable for all homeowners to share in this cost. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
Any discussion? Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
I'll make a motion to go forward on the first part as the amended petition is currently for the engineer to come up with the cost and what the project's going to encompass.
Any
Commissioner,
discussion?
If you do that, you have to do that based upon a finding that the improvement is necessary, that it's conducive to the public welfare, and the cost will be less than the benefits.
Add that to the language, clerk.
And if it's not, when we find out what the actual cost is, then we would say no at that point.
Okay, can we vote then
Yes.
on that?
Do roll call.
Roll call, please.
No, just call our names out.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, it's been a long day.
It's been a long day.
Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Make a motion to go in executive session as outlined by the county administrator and county prosecutor.
Second?
Any discussion? Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
This has been a broadcast of the recent Lorain County Commissioners' General Meeting. Unless otherwise announced, meetings are held Wednesday morning at 9:30 at the Administration Building, 226 Middle Avenue, 4th floor, downtown Elyria. These are public meetings, and you are invited to attend. Agendas are posted prior to the meeting at www.loraincounty.us. Click on Departments to see the Commissioners page, then click on View Agenda for a printable copy of the agenda.